Hey everyone, this is Hart, and we're back with Dragon Force 2. Now, we were just heading back to the barrier into the Zeldokian Empire with Sanith and Edelbach in order to use Kathmandu's power to try to break it down.
さあ、カトマンド、お前の力も見せよう。
頑張って、カトマンドゥ。
もし失敗したとしても、また奴を修理してやり直せばいい。
直せません。カトマンドゥが死んだらもう直せませんわ。もういいよ。もういいよ。
見ているのだ、奴の力を。信じるのだ、奴の思いを。
大丈夫？怪我してるの？私はサニス。カトマンドゥ？変な名前ね。友達でいてね。カトマンドゥ！
サニス。
生きてたのね。
先に行け。
嫌よ。あなたを置いていけないわ。
また会える。
でも
世界を救え。
カトマンドゥ。
サニス、カトマンドゥの勇気を無駄にしないために先に進もう。ビオル。
はい、ここに。
カトマンドゥの記憶装置を取り出して工場に運べ。あとは任せた。緊急だ。
はい、わかりました。
サニス、心配するな。必ず治る。
本当ね。わかったわ。カトマンドゥ、また後でね。
いい子だ。
Okay, in that scene that we just saw, in that little cutscene, Kathmandu goes to try to use his powers to break down the barrier, and Sanith is worried that he'll get hurt and wants to try to stop him, but Edelbach says that we have to believe in his strength. And then he eventually breaks it, and he does survive, but is damaged. So he says to Sanith for her to go on ahead. And at first she's reluctant to, but eventually acquiesces. You might have noticed there I just cut something out, and that was because in that battle that we just fought in that castle, it's nothing big, you didn't miss anything. It's just Dogul, one Dogul mage and one Dogul knight. Unfortunately the sound didn't record properly when I recorded this, so I had to just cut that out. Luckily I managed to record around it, but I just left out that one part, so I hope you don't mind there. There's nothing. It's no different from any Dogul people we fought, and after this we'll fight another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like 8 of them, so really you're not missing out. So as you can see, there are a lot of unoccupied castles here. I'm not really sure why. I think if you're not quick enough, Estan, Midia and Orvo, who occupy one castle each, will send out Dogul troops to occupy the castles, which means you have to spend time defeating them first, whereas if you're speedy, you can probably just get in there before they occupy it, and then you just get free castles. You'll notice a couple of times I do bump into some Dogul that have beat me to a castle, but it only happens, I think, twice. So most of these castles don't really have much function other than to provide more mercenaries for after you've fought the 3 main dark soldiers, which one will fight right now.
よくぞここまで来た人間だがここまでだ我が剣の露と消えよ
Okay, so we've met Estan for the second time, who's the wielder of the Demon Blade, and this will be the last time that we have to fight him. As you can see, there's one Doggle Mage and one Doggle Knight that we have to first get through. These are the guys that if you hang around too long will occupy the castles in the vicinity. I'm just going to be speeding through these because it's nothing you haven't already seen. I'll leave in any new techniques if I show them, and any duels because they're quite interesting to watch. You don't need to use all of your monarchs here, you can use any general you like. I just prefer to use my monarchs since they tend to have the best skills and the best stats. If you really wanted to make the game easy, you could just use Sanith the entire time. The only thing that you have to watch out for is, at the moment, Kathmandu has been damaged, so her sprite is unaccompanied. She will just be Sanith, not with Kathmandu, so she actually has slightly lower stats. She has lower defense, charisma, and I think power as well. So that's something just to bear in mind. But if you just keep using the same generals over and over, it's for example, like Sanith, it's pretty easy to power level them and to make these battles quite easy. I just like to use different generals, so that's why I bring all of my monarchs with me. Another thing to note is that all of the enemy generals here are level 20, all of the enemy general doggles, so it's quite a good opportunity to level up your monarchs or other generals if you've been perhaps neglecting them a little bit. So here we're fighting Estan himself. He's actually level 45, which might sound kind of insane considering I think Edelbach is level 17 and my highest level character is Sanith, who's 21. But I don't think they're quite as powerful as, for example, your own generals would be if they were level 45. He only has 16 MP, I suppose that's because he's a melee unit, but his HP is only 123, so not that much.
見えてもらおう
The skill we just saw is Meteor Panic, which in my opinion is one of the best skills in the game. It's quite pricey, it costs 6 MP, but it looks cool, it hits everyone for 40 damage, which is really good, and it damages the enemy general and doesn't harm your own troops, so extremely useful. And also it's the same spell which was the highest level spell that Reinhardt got in Dragon Force 1, so of course I'm going to be biased and like it for that reason. Edelbach and Kaede both get Meteor Panic, so that's a good reason to use those monarchs if you were trying to find one. I have to say that out of all the monarchs, Kaede is probably my least favourite, and closely followed by Gangus. I think she's quite hard to use because her skills aren't as useful as other generals. Bart's kind of falls in the same category. He doesn't get very useful skills, especially to begin with, but because of Dancing Sword he's at least a little bit easier to use than Kaede and Gangus. Gangus has very high HP, granted, but I would have to say that my favourite monarchs are Sanith, Shen, Edelbach, and Lenny, I think. And then Bart's to some extent. Lenny definitely gets a lot more useful the more you use her. At lower levels, she, as I've mentioned before, she doesn't have any skills that damage the enemy general, and she actually doesn't, I don't think she gets any at all, but she just has very, very useful skills like Resurrection, Healing, Magic Charge, what else? Oh, she actually gets Meteor Panic as well, so yeah, so that makes her awesome. Hyperstorm is the attack spell she gets early on, but early on, but it doesn't do any damage to the enemy general, so not that useful. And the skill that I just left in there was Big Wave. I've actually got that a while ago, but I think I forgot to show it to you. It's a decent spell, it doesn't hit the enemy general, but it's a decent area of effect spell.
いい勝負だったな。俺の負けだ。そして今度俺の魂がこの魔剣に座れる番。そうか、魔剣よ。俺の死を悲しんで泣いてくれるか。ならば共に闇に帰るとしよう。どうやらここは俺たちには眩しすぎる世界のようだ。
When you defeat Estan, he says that it's his turn for his soul to be sucked up by his demon blade, and then he says that the demon blade grieves over his death, and so he says to his blade, "Let us return to the darkness together." So they both disappear. You don't need to occupy most of these castles, all these empty castles between Estan, Media, and Orvo. I just like to for OCD reasons. It's useful to have troops occupying castles to search for items, so if you get high intelligence units in these castles, then you can find extra stuff. The other reason is, as long as you've got at least one general in a castle, you'll always have mercenaries available, so that if you do suffer a defeat, you can just run back to your nearest castle and quickly replenish your number of troops. So that's really the only reason you'd ever need to occupy most of these castles. As I mentioned before, if you want to, you might want to be a little bit careful about Doggles taking over some of the castles, but really you only need to worry about ones that are directly adjacent to one of the three main Dark Generals like Estan, Media, and Orvo for that to happen anyway.
さっきの戦いでドグルの体から出たこの結晶は何？
闇の波動を感じます。
闇のドラゴンフォースの結晶なのか。魔族の奴らの体内で結晶化したドラゴンフォースの闇の部分なのか。
おそらく彼らの体に積もった闇の力、それが形となったもの。
When we defeated Estan, there was a crystal left behind, which is what we just saw, and they surmise that it's the crystallized energy of the Dark Dragon Force. When the Dragon Force got split into Dark and Light, and the Dogul people underground took the power of the Dark Dragon Force. It is strongest in Orvo, Estan, and Media, and then Grandel himself. So when we defeated Estan, we sort of retrieved the crystallized form of that energy, and Edelbach warns Sanith not to touch it, because if someone whose will isn't strong enough touches it, then it will take their energy to bring back Estan, or whoever you defeated to get it. And then Tiris agrees that it's dangerous and that she will seal the crystal so that its dark power can't be released.